Welcome to another episode of Laptop Retrospective, and today we are looking at a laptop that deserves the term semi-rugged. This is a Dell E6410 ATG, if you didn't miss that part right there. This is part of a semi-rugged line of laptops that Dell made a couple years back, and it definitely meets that criteria quite nicely. Certainly better than some others that we've seen on this channel. At any rate, let's go ahead and just dive right into this big beastie. This particular one is rocking a Intel Core i5 560M CPU. It has a whopping 4 gigs of RAM, Intel HD graphics, that's it, and a 500 gigabyte standard mechanical hard drive with optical drive hanging out on the side. It also happens to have a relatively decent network card, an Intel, I believe, Centrino Advanced N6200. So, not amazing. But let's go ahead and take a look at what this actually comes with. On the back, and this is, I think, really worth pointing out, a full-sized DisplayPort. This is the first laptop I've seen in a really long time that actually has one of those. So no dongles needed, unless you need to adapt DisplayPort to something else. You have your network jack. Over here, if you had a modem, it would be there, but in this case we do not, so it says modem, no modem. We have our power supply connector there. Moving along this side, we have the Kensington lock on the left-hand side, VGA, one USB port, and then one eSATA USB port, a generous cooling grill, a smart card slot. Along the front, we have the SD card, which comes with a blank SD card to presumably keep dust and debris out of that slot. And then moving along here, we have our 1394 port. We have a PC card slot here, which is currently unoccupied. We have a physical kill switch for our Wi-Fi, and a split microphone headphone jack and another 2 USB ports. It's also worth noting that this tray, I believe, can actually be ejected. However, there is a security screw that is neatly holding that in place. Right there. And then along the bottom, we have a dock connector and our battery, and that is pretty much it. If we actually want to open this thing up, we've got a latch on the front that we can open up and see that it does come with its version of the track point. Our volume controls are also up there. Our trackpad is shockingly small, but I have to say, these buttons are really great, especially these. They're nice and clicky. Sorry. The other thing that I want to point out, other than a fingerprint reader down here, is actually this button that we've got located right next to the power button. This actually operates a unique feature that was shipped on a handful of Dell laptops, and that is the Latitude ON function. So if we actually press this, the idea is that it'll launch into a stripped down operating system that runs in conjunction with Microsoft Office 2010. So this isn't going to get very far because I don't have it. And what it would actually do is read your account information, allow you to use a very stripped down browser, email, and all that other stuff. But it will come up with this error saying that there are no accounts, and to create one, you need to run the configuration tool. The configuration tool will happily tell you that unless Outlook 2010 is installed and an account is set up to it, it won't actually operate. And since I do not have access to Office 2010 anymore, sorry, just the recent versions, and they're too new to work, this now becomes an antiquated feature. But the idea is that you could do temporary email checking and things without having to fully boot into the operating system. And to its credit, this is quicker than, say, a traditional mechanical hard disk boot, but I also feel that this has been kind of made obsolete by the use of, say, oh, I don't know, solid-state hard drives. And that kind of brings me to a point on this machine, before we tear it down and look at its guts, is it is an incredibly rugged machine. It's got lots of connectivity, so long as you do not require, you know, high-speed anything. And that's kind of where it sits, is that this is a machine that if you need a cheap, inexpensive solution that is very, very durable, and you want to find a used one, I think that there is some value to tracking one of these down. But that's really it. It doesn't offer a lot of new things, but this thing is thick, it's durable, and it's got a lot of the stuff that you would actually want a lot of laptops to have. But let's go ahead and open it up and see what we can see on the inside. So first things first, we will pull the two tabs holding the battery in place and remove that. So now with our power supply disconnected, let's go ahead and remove the retaining screw for our optical drive bay. So after a bit of Googling, it tells me to remove the screw, but it's quite clear from other documentation that this is an actual fact security screw, and it was kind of an additional part. And what I can't seem to find is the trick to actually removing that security screw. I'll keep messing with it, but hopefully it won't hamper my ability to take the rest of this thing apart, because I might not figure it out. So if you do know how to deal with that security screw, please let me know in the description down below. I would really like to know this for future videos. So each of these covers have to come off, because there's a tab under there that's holding each side of this casing on. I smell nonsense in my future. Alright. So now what we need to do is apparently you slide this forward and then you can remove it. Let's go ahead and put this off to the side and see what we can see. So we've got our WLAN card here. The WAN card slot is completely free and clear. We have our memory in two slots, 2 gigabytes each. Let's see what else we've got going on in here. So the hard drive is actually just removed by prying this out. It doesn't feel like it should work, but out it comes. So there is our hard disk drive on this weird hinge piece. So this would be a pretty easy upgrade to do to something solid state to make this thing a heck of a lot snappier than it is currently. With that being said, we have access to our CMOS coin battery and realistically anything else that you would want to service. If the Latitude ON had its own dedicated module, it would have gone up here in this corner as well. And that's pretty much all there is to see without doing an absolutely horrendous deep dive of this thing, which it's thick, it's full of screws. I'm okay. I'm really okay with that. The only other thing that might be of interest to anyone is if we turn this unit over and go on the inside, there is a small LED cover here that if we actually want to access and remove the keyboard, we actually have to pry this guy up. Thankfully, this comes up a lot easier than, say, oh, I don't know, a touch bar on a Mac would. So once that's out of the way, we've got 2 screws that keep the keyboard in place. So once those 2 screws have been removed, your keyboard assembly will just start to pry up and wiggle out. And the nice thing about this is that it's actually got these contacts on the bottom, and that's how it connects, so you don't need to worry about ribbon cables. And from here you can remove the housing and all this other wonderful good plastic goodies. They also do give you nice easy access from the fan from both sides, so you could actually really blow that out quite nicely without having to disassemble it. We can also have easy access to our ribbon connectors on the opposite side of the board. And installation is just as easy as removal. go ahead and place it down and just gently coax it back into its home. And there you have it. No double-sided tape needed. Now that we have our machine fully back together, let's go ahead and just go through the last few things that made this laptop kind of interesting at the time. The first is that it was using what was called a tri-metal construction, and it used and met the military spec standard 810G, so it was fairly durable. The only other thing that's worth mentioning is that it did claim that it had an outdoor capable display, so if you are in an environment that is outdoors that has a lot of unfavorable light conditions, the display was designed and meant to essentially stand up against a large amount of light being thrown at it, known as the sun, and still produce a decent quality image. And I'll let the results speak for themselves. With that being said, though, that really is all there is that I have to say on this particular machine. Seems to be fairly well built. It's definitely thick, it's heavy, your battery is going to last approximately 3 to 4 hours. It's not a huge component, and it is driving a fair bit of laptop. And I really think that it is one of those purchases that an individual in the year 2019 would only be making if it hit a certain niche market. If we were able to, say, program or reconfigure that Latitude On button to, say, boot into a simplistic version of Linux, and I know that there are people that have tried, but the documentation is about 10 years old now, that would have actually breathed new life into these, because you would literally have a dedicated button for dual booting, and how cool would that be? At any rate, I hope that you enjoyed this content. If you did, I've got the big 4 here along the bottom. Please like, share, subscribe, and if you do subscribe, hit that notification bell so you are notified when new laptops, and I say new, new to me, end up on this teardown table. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.